So, ladies and gentlemen, Alan Stewart. Hello and welcome back to Podcast Live. You're so well behaved. This morning we're discussing the past, the present and the future, and Alan Stewart has just discussed the birth of franchising to the brand, which was started in the early 90s, and recently we've had our newest franchise, a newest franchisee open, and she is going to join me today. Now, she's a podcast virgin. This is her first time because she's not actually done her main one yet. So you're getting a sneak peek because in the next few weeks, she's actually going to film her longer podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, will you welcome from our Great Western Road Salon, Tara. Because this is your first time, we need to get the most important thing out the way, first of all.
Whisper Gold,
right, okay, no problem.
And
Right,
Will's left his.
I'm keeping this one, because Andy and William usually end up getting them all, and then I'm in the car starving and having no got one. I've done 4 podcasts in a day, so I'm keeping that one in my skyrocket this time. So, first of all, welcome to Podcast Live.
Thank you.
And so, for the team members that don't know you, let's go back to your sort of original journey. So what's your sort of your first recollections of Rainbow International?
Okay, so 15 left school.
Yeah.
Got a job hairdressing.
Yeah.
Was there for about a year.
Uh-huh.
And this was back, I mean, I'm not going back as far as what some of you guys have. I'm a bit greener than that. But it is going back to a time where when you worked in a salon, you worked your way up through, you know, the technical aspects of learning to cut, learning to colour, but you didn't get qualifications.
Right.
That wasn't something that was to be had, and you got promoted to a stylist level if a stylist left. That was the only opportunity to progress. And then, luckily enough, our Rainbow Room Crow Road opened round the corner from where I was living. I had a baby at the time, and thought, maybe I need some credentials, maybe I need some paperwork.
Yeah.
You know, they might never promote me to stylist level, so went in for a job interview, got a job, and have been with Rainbow Room pretty much ever since.
Pretty much ever since, yeah.
Pretty much ever since.
You're allowed a break. There's some infamous superstars with a break.
You're allowed a break, but this was like my morning break.
Yeah, yeah.
This was my morning break. I left, I walked out.
Exactly.
Because I had been used to the salon I worked in before was like a city centre salon, major hustle and bustle, loads of cool celebrity footballers, their wives, you know, really exciting for a 15-year-old to be working in. And lo and behold, I'm working in a residential area, walked round the corner from where I lived, so didn't even have the whole city centre commute to get excited about in the morning. And I wasn't aware that most staff at that point were on a course, which great, Rainbow Room, loads of courses, but it was quiet. And it was me and kind of 2 assistants, and there wasn't really any stylists in the morning, which maybe I just hadn't been given access to that information. And I thought, oh, this is just not, you know, what I assumed it was going to be. So went out on my morning break. And didn't come back. Got home, and my now husband, who'd taken the day off work to look after our baby so I could start my new job, was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I can't do it. It's not, you know, it's not exciting." And I'm just not, because it's a feeling, isn't it? Like we've all said before, when you walk in that place and you get that feeling. I didn't get that feeling. And then, you know, lucky enough, John's a people person, and he phones and he's like, "What happened? You know, where are you?" Maybe expecting a bit of a drama, and I didn't have the heart to say that, you know, because that felt maybe a wee bit offensive. So I made up a lie.
Right. Okay.
I was like, I went out my morning break, and I was going to be too late coming back, and then I felt quite nervous, and he was like, "Come on, babe, back. You know, you're fine. You know, we all can have a wee bit of a stumble. It's fine. Back you come." So lucky enough, I got a second opportunity the next day. Wow. And walked in the door, different atmosphere. And isn't that just so important as to, you know, when your clients walk in the door, you know, if it's a day that to you is, you know, it's not a busy day, we know that the team are doing something else that's really exciting and really important for them. But if a client walks in the salon and they're not getting that energy, you know, why would they maybe come back a second time? Because I know that I certainly got that feeling on the first day as a potential employee.
And what's amazing about that is that the previous podcast with Will talk about clients' expectation and how much effort they've put into researching coming for an appointment, and then they come in and they do come in and that day you aren't keeping them, are you?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, certainly that was the way I felt. So, you know, it's only in the latter years that you're reflecting on, you know, how to maintain and keep a client that I look back at that scenario and I think, wow, even as a, you know, I was getting paid at the end of that day and still I was like, don't think I'll, you know, be staying here. But as I say, next day, walked in the door, everyone was really passionate and excited because they'd been on a course, feeling really refreshed, and honestly, it was like a different place. So lucky enough, I got that opportunity to correct my mistake.
What a difference
at a young age, which not everybody gets.
No, what a difference a day makes.
Yeah.
So your then journey through the brand brings you to a point where you're obviously starting to see franchises opened and people do.
Yeah.
When did your first interest in that idea spark?
I mean, I would say on and off throughout my whole career, it's something that, you know, crossed my mind. It was something that I felt I always would get to, but never quite knew exactly when, because I think that we're quite privileged that we work for a brand that offers so many different avenues to go down, whether it be, and I always use the word just, but I don't mean just, but if you just want to be a really successful stylist and work through the promotional ladder and build your clientele, you've got that opportunity, and no one's going to put pressure on you to do anything else. But also, you know, there's these other arms to it that if, you know, becoming an educator or, you know, managing a team, potentially owning your own franchise is something you're excited about, then that's available to you as well. So whenever I would get a bit, I've kind of achieved that, and, you know, my periphery vision would open to something else, I would then go, you know, education, you know, and luckily there was always opportunity to get involved with that.
So was it a bit yin and yangy though? Was there some times that I see myself as being a franchisee and see the positives of it, or was there sometimes going, actually, do you know what, I don't know if that's what I'm going to want to do, and seeing a negative aspect of it, or was it always I'm doing it?
No, I don't think that I ever seen the negative aspect of it. I think it was more when life was busy and you didn't have time to take that on and think about it. And I'm one of these people that I internalise a lot. Like, I don't, you know, if something goes on in my personal life, I'll generally wait until I've made the decision how I'm going to handle it before I talk to anybody about it, because I like, if it's the wrong decision to make, then it's my wrong decision and I've not been influenced by anyone else. So that was probably just all very internal. But then you speak to Alan and you voice, you know, what your hopes are for yourself and what you're wanting to achieve. And once it's out there, like that's it, done. As far as I'm concerned, you've began the journey.
And
so
when did that begin? When did you when did you see the window of approaching Alan and Linda?
So it was probably about 7 years ago, which was quite a long time ago, pre-COVID. Lucky enough that I was, you know, in the academy on a weekly basis, so there would be opportunities where, you know, some days I'd be like, right, today's the day. But then, as you guys know, in the academy, it can hit the fan and you've not got time to go for a pee, never mind sit down and have what would be, you know, quite a conversation to have with Alan. And that's one of the really exciting things about the industry. Like, you really get rewarded for the hard work and graft that you put in. Talent's one thing, but, you know, if you've not got a work ethic, if you're not hard working, it's not going to get you very far.
No.
So knowing yourself that was a direction at that point, right, that this is definitely happening, having a conversation with Alan, and obviously he does that. And like stares at you, and it feels like a lifetime. Like they talk about when you leave a client at reception too long, or you know something like that, and I'm like, he's doing that to me. I don't know what this means. And also I've got trainees out there I need to go and help finish the rest of the day, and I've got that hat on. But this is my opportunity to have this conversation, and then it's met with, okay, me and Linda will get back to you. And the hard work thing that I go back to is, when someone else in the brand also believes you're capable of it, when someone that you've worked alongside for, you know, decades feels like, no, this is a serious conversation, we can have this, then that really solidifies the fire and the energy, and, oh God, I really could do this, and I've got something to offer.
Got you.
And that you're being taken seriously in that manner, then it's just like full steam ahead. But we've done a lot of looking. You know, it has to be the right salon, it has to be the right location. You have to have gone through the process of researching an area and how you would build your team and, you know, what your business plan is. And you're doing all of these things, you know, tons of times through until you get to the right place.
Oh, there's a lot of bits of paper thrown in the bin that you've written on that way through and making that decision.
Yeah.
So interestingly, that's kind of like the when, but why? What was the reason that you felt you wanted to be a leader and to be a franchisee?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I think because everybody's probably going to have a different reason for that. And
well, I would get the sack, so I had to be self-employed because I slept in all the time. So I thought,
okay, you had to do your own hours.
I'm going to need to be my boss because then I'll get the sack.
Strangely, and I don't know that if anybody else can resonate with this, but strangely for me, it was I wanted to turn up at a salon every day with a culture that felt like me, that felt like I really belonged. And although I had that with the brand, you know, every location, every team, every salon's got its own way of operating and way of working, because we've got the standards and we've got the systems, and that's just, you know, like that's you know, you have to maintain that. But depending on the location and the size of the team and all of that, I was very aware that there was something missing in my energy, and I felt like I wanted to be turning up every day in an environment where, regardless of what avenue of the industry you wanted to go down, I was helping create opportunities for people to go down that avenue, whether it be creative or you know, management or education, or, as I say, just turning up and doing servicing your clients exceptionally well. To have a wee hand in that and help create those opportunities for people felt really rewarding. And maybe that also does come from, you know, the years that I've done at the training academy, where you're kind of doing a little bit of that every week, where you're helping, you know, people achieve their goals.
Absolutely. Ultimately, we're all standing on the shoulder of giants.
Yeah.
Right? So Alan and Linda put that time and effort and energy into the concept and the birth of the brand, and then all of our development. So whether you're at an education perspective in the salon, whether you're at the academy, or whether ultimately you get the full responsibility of franchisee, we owe it to the next guys coming through, because somebody at the end of the day did it for us. And I think that should never be underestimated, in that's part of the plight of being a franchisee. And it's I would say one of the biggest rewards is seeing your team fly.
For sure. And I think when you're doing a lot of like complaining or noticing what isn't today what it used to be, what helped you be who you are today, you go back to that. Well, what are you doing about it? That whole it's never someone else's job.
No.
You know, if you're recognising that there's things in the industry that's changing, that you feel were the things that made you who you are today. Because I feel I've really grown up as a person in the industry, and a lot of the skills that I have as a mother and a partner and a friend. You know, like, how many industries are there where you go on courses where they teach you how to communicate well and how to understand people, which actually then comes back to you understanding you. You know, if you're never getting a great result, you know, from an experience you're having with a person, then maybe sometimes you have to look at yourself, think, how am I presenting myself in that moment? So that, for me, was something that I felt I could maybe offer someone else. Yeah,
of course. It is. It's so strong. And I think when you walk in the door as that 15, 16-year-old assistant, none of us are looking at you as if you're going to be here to brush the floor and wash some hair. Yes, shiatsu is going to be important whether you're 53 or whether you're 15. And you've seen on these screens all morning that one of the core things and the fundamental things that you keep seeing replayed is shiatsu. And we'll never, you know, it's our Big Mac. We brought it to Scotland. It's fundamental to that client's experience and backs up what Will's saying about please don't take that for granted, because it's one of the things that the client loves itself, and that's in place there. But these core things are there, but we imagine you as Tara. We imagine you going through all that journey and doing all of those things, and getting to be the assistant, the stylist, or be on stage and do the show or whatever, and then be at the pinnacle of whatever your career journey is. So if that is the art team, then well, it's our job to get you to the art team. If it's to be an educator, it's our job to be to get you to be an educator. if it is that thing where you want to be a stylist that does 96, but you want to be earning X amount of money to go on X amount of holidays and drive whatever kind of car you want, well, that's your job too.
Yeah.
And then for the people that then want to go that stage further and put all the chips in, because it's quite scary when at the end of the day it's a question of, well, if it doesn't work, it's no Alan's house that's going, it's yours. So it's a different kettle of fish when you're at that point. So that risk is there. So on that point, you're in the old office, in the lawyer's office, and you're signing your name on that big giant bit of paper. How did that feel? And it became that real?
I mean, there's just a lot of terminology and a lot of jargon that you've got no idea what it really means, you know, but luckily enough, you know, I had all you guys to then, you know, ask questions and bat things off. And I think also, maybe this is my naivety, but it's important to also take some of that maybe not too seriously, because I think you could allow yourself to get really bogged down with, you know, the heaviness of it. And ultimately,
my lawyer pinpointed the fact that if you didn't use the right coffee cups, they could take the salon off you.
Wow.
And I'm like, he says, but if you're really busy, you know, they could take that business off you. And just and I went going, no, if I get really busy, they're going to give me another one. I mean, they're not going to take one away from me. And then I went, and you do understand that I don't know how to serve a cup of coffee any other way, because that's the way I've been doing it since I was 16. You know,
and that's an interesting one, because a lot of people did say, you know, even clients, you know, like would you not go out on your own? Is that not the thing you would do? And like, you just don't understand when you've been part of a brand where for decades you feel that you've helped develop it and build it, and you really do feel that you've been part of it. Going back to that whole Kaizen philosophy of, you know, small, incremental, continual, you know, developments, you feel quite precious over it. You know, yes, it's Alan and Linda's and all of that, but you feel like you have been part of something that, if you have to ask what would you not have opened up your own, and your answer is you just don't get it. I don't understand how to explain that.
I can't explain it to you.
So as you're saying, like, you know, why would I
fundamental.
serve a coffee another way?
And that sense of ownership and all of these practices and everything that you're seeing past, present, future, you know, there's a minimum of 50 people in this room that have had an influence on why the procedures are getting done the way that they're getting done today. Because again, we keep talking about Alan and Linda empowering from the young up. I used to be young, and we've always had that opportunity. And I think that's part of that sense of ownership before you've signed on the dotted line, that you already feel that way anyway. So the night before, which is a question we ask on the podcast all the time, when we start the second half of your podcast, you're always talking about that journey when you're about to open the doors. So obviously yours is unique, because ultimately you're following the footsteps of two rock and roll giants, and John and Joe at Great Western Road.
Absolutely.
Let's hear it for John and Joe up front here. So it wasn't that a lot of us are sitting still scraping the grout out the tiles and putting the shelf up. Literally, they were finishing their journey Saturday night at 5 to 6, and then you're walking in at 5
and
past 6.
then they all go to the pub, and I'm like, right, see you later, guys.
There the keys crack on. So you're going in at 5 to 6, and it's like, right, I'm going in with my cash machines, and I've got to turn this over. So your night before was completely unique. Yeah,
I mean, John was great. He welcomed me, you know, as much as I wanted to come up and just, you know, sit on a Saturday afternoon and observe how the team operated, and how the salon functioned, you know, with its layout. And all of that kind of stuff. Anytime I wanted to come up, and he had like such a lot of information ready to hand that made the process of the handover unbelievably
this is exactly the music to play at 3 o'clock, by the way. You must have this playlist on at 3.
But then you literally do have I have to keep your cash machine plugged in up till midnight, because all your transactions have to transfer over. Minute past midnight, I need to get mine plugged in, because I'm fully booked from 10:30 in the morning. And that transition as well, of like their columns all being shut and our clients phoning to book in, or going online to book in online, and our columns being open from the next day onwards, you know, like quite an interesting, but again, you don't know any different. I didn't know any different.
No, it's how you were doing it that day.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, the salon was great. The handover was really, really easy. And you just hit the ground running, you know, you finish up and Saturday night in Crow Road, and then you're in on the Sunday, good to go.
That's it, you're in GWR. So now, how long's that now you've had the franchise?
Be 3 years this May.
Right, okay, so you're coming up to your
Feels like 30.
Like that. And thinking back to that person that went into the room to Alan and Linda to go, right, this, has it equalled your expectations? Has it, what's been the surprises? What's been the bits that you didn't realise that were going to be rewarding that have ended up being rewarding? What's jumped out at you?
Try and not get emotional.
No.
The people,
Aye.
genuinely.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible to care so much about the team that you work with.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're part of their journey, and it's coming to fruition, but in a way where it's still all about them. So it's kind of led by them. You're just making sure that you're always having the conversation about where you are today, supporting them, encouraging them, and guiding them as to the potential that you see in them and where they could go next, and their achievements. And I genuinely didn't imagine being as passionate and as excited to go to work every single day. Now maybe that is partly because it is your own.
Of course.
Maybe there is a bit of that as well, but if I'm not at work, I don't phone to check on people, but sometimes I'm like, how was your night out last night? And that thing that you were doing, and maybe there's a bit of selfishness in there as well, because it allows you to really understand who they are and where they're at, so that if there's any wee hiccups, you're almost already prepared for it to an extent. But it does reel you in, and it's hard, when it's your baby, they become an extension of that.
Of course they are.
And you get really excited when you see their achievements.
Yeah.
Unbelievably proud of that, for sure.
The
downside, the cold calling, because that was probably one of the really hardest things, because when we took over, and obviously you've got the switch off of all of the power and all of that, and things moving over to you, the 3 to 5 times a day, the energy companies would phone,
of course,
but pretend to be your energy company.
Yes,
and if we don't get your details by the end of today, your power will be cut off.
All that nonsense.
And then I'm phoning my power, and it's not them. It's people that lie. That know the date your power's due for renewal. They know. I mean, that really did exhaust me, because I would be style drying a client, and reception would come over and they'd be like, that power cut date's got 5 o'clock tonight. And I thought, right, well, I'll take the call. And you're on the call for 40 minutes before you then. They're very clever before, and that exhausted me. Because I took every call, because I was just like, what if this is the one? And when you've had the handover so easy, you can't be like, Alan, our power got cut off today because I didn't take a phone call. So
my second day,
difficult.
My second day opened, and we actually have the high priestess and goddess of hairdressing publishing in the back room, Miss Jane Lewis-Orr. Are you there, Jane? Give us a wave. She's hiding it. Good. And there was a scam in British hairdressing at the time, and it was always a Manchester accent, Will. And it was that you'd taken a page of advertising out on, it could either be the back of a school jotter or a poster, right? And it was just, I spoke to you 3 months ago, and you said you were going to do this advert, and so it's just to get the payment today. And it was always like 70 quid, and they would know to talk to the salon owner because you were busy, and that obviously, you were wanting some sort of promotion, and that was great. And you would give it away, right? But of course, the idiot phoned me and said 3 months ago, right? And the phone only went on 2 days before, and I went, did you phone this number 3 months ago? And you go, well, that's fucking amazing, mate, because I wasn't here 3 months ago, so here's a crazy idea. You want to shove your poster up your arse, right? So 4 years later, it was school jotters, and then the next one, so it came recurring, but Jane and the team did a whole story about it, because they were targeting hairdressers because they knew you were the busy guy. They knew you were under stress, and that thing was the thing that was always going to be really a problem. But for all the other front of house people, get a hold of Kat later on at my salon and ask her how she deals with cold callers, because she's pretty much got a unique approach now, and it pretty much comes from my colourful language that she then passes on. So last question for your segment on Podcast Live. Well done, everybody. You're good. I wish I had chocolates for you all. So you're the newest person with a unique perspective, having been a team member at Congress and now a salon owner at Congress. So how do the two things differ?
I mean, it's a strange thing to all of a sudden have the switch where your head's not in the game as you entering things and going on stage and winning awards. That's a hard pill to swallow, I'm not going to lie. And at first I was like, where does that come from? All of a sudden that's not, you're that is not your hat, and it's never going to be your hat again.
No,
you know, where you're working towards achieving these self-improvements, because it is a 50-50 thing, isn't it? Like, we all still are active hairdressers, we're all still trying to be better than we were the year before, and all of a sudden we don't get the pat in the back for it.
No.
That's quite strange, you know. So, but watching the team do what they do, you know, is what then excites you and drives you forward with that.
Self-improvement is your self-improvement.
Well, exactly. No, it totally is, because it's a different thing. It's a totally different thing, but it's because you're still running both side by side, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, where when you're doing your clients, I'm sure you're very much, you know, Kaizen. Yeah. You know, like, is this better than the last visit? You know, so you're still giving yourself that reward, and I suppose you're receiving it maybe more from your clients, because you're like, that also is your reward. You know, 20 years down the line, you're still doing the same clients and achieving more, you know, than what you did the previous year. So you're hoping that that's enough internally when it comes to you as a hairdresser. But again, I mean, the team are just fantastic, and watching them, I really like watching people. I like observing them, going, that's who that person is, and I always see their name on the chart, and that's always where they are, and so I could maybe aim to be, you know, working towards these things, and that's where my journey could potentially go. So it's more the aftermath and the conversations after Congress, when they're dead excited and super passionate about recognising where they've sat within the company, them getting their, you know, pat in the back for that, and they feel like we celebrities. No, you know, when other directors and other stylists are congratulating them for how well they've done throughout the year. I think they think they're always watching who's above them, but they don't realise that regardless of what level they're at, they're always being watched as well. Of course. And this is that recognition for them, understanding that that's a huge thing. And even as a director now, because we get to do the stairwell bit, when you're either going up to the stage or getting down, so you can't underestimate how much we love that, by the way, because we just get to see that moment when you're like, and you've got the thing, and then it's just all your wee faces when you're coming back down the stairs is unbelievable. So again, what a cracking short insight. It's a cracking teaser for what your full podcast is going to be for both parts as well. But for the journey from joining the company, chucking it halfway through the first day, coming back, working right through, hitting all of the bases, getting your franchise, and then seeing your team fly, it's been amazing, Tara. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tara.